Hi, everybody. We have a special treat for you today. We have a great guest that I'm going to allow Carrie to introduce for us.
So excited. Today, we have Erika Wasserman with us. Erika is one of only 70 certified financial therapists in the world. She's a single mom to 3 teenage girls. So get ready to be captivated by her passion for guiding individuals through emotional and financial empowerment. Welcome, Erika.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here talking with you both. This is going to be such a dynamic conversation because money, family, kids, what else can rile you up in one conversation? Throw in some politics and sex and we'll have it all, right?
No. Stop right there.
Yeah.
This isn't not that kind of
Yeah.
show. No
Yes.
politics. Not right now.
Right.
But
We need to, yeah.
Money's enough.
We can only
Money's
handle
enough
the
to get it
3
heated.
today.
Yeah.
Erica, I don't know what is more impressive in listening to Carrie's introduction. I don't know if it's more impressive that you're a single mom to 3 teenage girls, because that alone is a feat in itself, or that you're one of only 70 certified financial therapists in the world. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
that even mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Right. Like I've never even heard the term financial therapist. So I'm just so excited for you to tell us all about it.
you're not
So,
alone in that. And I get that quite often. And I kind of joke, my kids have heard it so much that they can now tell you what it is also. So sometimes I offload it to them. But so I live in a sorority house, raising 3 teenage daughters is and so that's always a joy. And then as a certified financial therapist, my life's been a roller coaster. Most people life's a roller coaster. You know, we're all along for a ride that we think it's going to look like X, and wow, does it look like YZ to the square, and all these other things.
So true.
And so on my roller coaster of life, I went to University of Florida, got a finance degree, talking about math with my dad. I was good at math. Like I just grew up where it was very common. I'll date myself, where there was one home computer and my dad would be researching stocks or trading stocks after work. And we just talked about it. And so for me, it was a natural fit to go into finance.
Okay.
So roller coaster of life. I get a degree at University of Florida in finance, and then I go work for IBM. Dream job, super exciting in consulting. I have the opportunity to live up to. I've been moved and moved 9 times in 12 years while I was with
Wow.
them. Met the girl
Wait, when you say moved, like physically your location
physically
or
my
in the
location.
within the
So
company?
moved to North Carolina, met their dad, my future husband, moved to New York City, young and dumb, an apartment we couldn't afford, but living our best life in our 20s.
yes.
Bought the house, moved to Connecticut, living that life. And then we got an opportunity of a lifetime and moved to Japan. So lived in Tokyo for 2 years and had the amazing opportunity of having my daughter in Tokyo. My first child was born overseas, away from parents, away from everybody. But the culture over there was so amazing of how to nurture. And you spend 5 nights in the hospital and they make sure your milk comes in and they make sure you know how to feed the baby. My only problem was I didn't speak that much Japanese and words I had never used before, but we got through it. Then moved to China, then moved back
You know, those hand signals of
straight.
put baby to.
Those are universal. Lift up, latch on.
Exactly. Crying kid, help. Ah. And then we moved to China and then came back to the US and had 2 more kids. Again, roller coaster of life, right? It's going great. Life's going, the roller coaster is going. Have 2 more kids, rapid fire. So I had 3 kids under the age of 4, left corporate America and my marriage. So, woof, downfall on the roller coaster
Wow.
ride.
Wow.
And, I liked math. I had a great career. All of a sudden, I lost my identity as a mom. I lost my identity, right? Because I was no longer working in corporate America and I was no longer married. So I moved to South Florida, had to rebuild myself. And in doing that, I started working with entrepreneurs growing businesses because it allowed me the flexibility to be that single mom. I had 3 kids under 4, right? So we still had preschool pickups, kids homesick, and I used my skills in helping people build businesses. We're going to keep going, twists and turns of life, right? Do, 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 do. My dad lives down.
You just got to keep
My
going.
dad lives down
As a
the
mom, you
street.
just got to keep
Right.
going.
He's my accountability partner. He's the one who's helping me still to this, well, not to this day, unfortunately, but at the time with my financial decisions. And he passes away in 2017. And he was diagnosed with cancer from when he was diagnosed to 18 days later, passed away.
Oh my
So
gosh.
again,
Oh,
roller
wow.
coaster ride, whoosh, we are
Yeah.
in it. My mom knew where the binder was. I knew what it meant because we had spent so much time over the years talking about money, talking about things. And so to this day, I'm still my mom's accountability partner when we talk about finances because it wasn't a skill in a 50-year marriage that she was strong at. Around this time, I heard about financial therapy and kind of like you, Carrie, I was like, I never heard of this, but wow, this is what I can do. I could talk to people about their relationship with money because I had been doing this on whole roller coaster ride between changing careers, changing currencies, adapting for marriage, separating money, adding kids to the mix. The difference between me and what I saw around me was I was in control of our finances and my finances, which meant I had opportunities and choices.
Right. So let me just ask you a question. Since you were in charge of the finances throughout your marriage or for your family, did that make you feel a little bit more confident and secure in your position and making the decision to leave your marriage? Like, because I'm imagining, it's probably a 50-50 of parents, like which one is in charge of the finances. And I guess how important is it in our families and in our marriages and our life for that to be a shared responsibility, so no parent is fully responsible and then caught off guard should something change in their life. So did that help
So
you
you just
make
highlighted something that's so
okay.
important because I just told you about divorce and death, two things that are unexpected a lot of the times. And a relationship with money is with you to the day you die and afterwards, right? Because with inheritances and all this other stuff, we know what we feed our families. We know how our family exercises. You know, all these, what religion you're going to raise your kids, how often you're going to go to church or temple or whatever it is. There's no reason for you not to know about your finances. It is a core, not even belief, but it's a core piece of who you are as a human in today's society. So the question is, oftentimes it goes to the man for finances because that's where it was set up before. We get our financial beliefs from three things: our background. Me talking about money with my dad was easy. So for me, it was great. I joke, we hide the shopping bags when we went shopping with my mom, right? Until my dad left and we brought them in. To this day, I don't understand because my dad paid the credit card bill, but that was my background.
Yeah.
Religion. Money is greed. Money doesn't buy happiness. Men are the ultimate decision makers. So oftentimes people go from their father's home or their parents' home where money's not talked about to a husband. And all of a sudden, there's no need for those conversations, and they haven't seen those conversations, which leads to the third part, which is experiences. So if your experience is, I don't touch the finances, I'm okay, then that's what you do. But here's the thing, oftentimes, and we'll use the man here, it defaults to the man. I have a lot of men clients that come to me because they're very alpha and great in their field that they're in, doctors, lawyers, professionals, but nobody taught them about managing money. And the expectation is there that they know how to do it. So even though your partner might be taking the lead, it doesn't necessarily know that they know everything.
So, okay, I there's so many questions I have for you, but you mentioned your clients, and I think that's the piece we're missing. What exactly are you providing to your clients?
So I went to Kansas State and got a graduate certificate in financial therapy. Yes, there is a real thing out there. 4 colleges currently offer financial therapy programming. Then I joined the Financial Therapy Association, and that's where I got certified. So this is a relatively new field. The certification came about in 2019, but it is a needed and growing one because our emotions with money impact our personal relationships, our professional relationships, and your kids. Your kids are watching you talk about money or not talk about money. So it's so important to do that. And I just want to circle back to the women in the group that want to get more involved but don't know how to start the questions. Two ways of doing it. One, I created a deck of cards called Let's Talk Finances Couples Edition. And this is
I
because
love
people
that.
kept coming to me saying, I don't know how to start the conversation. So you
Okay.
pick a card.
And start the conversation with their kids or start the conversation even with their
So
spouse?
this would be with your spouse. This is a great way to get the
Okay.
conversation going with your spouse. And we can pick a few later to see how the cards go. The other is just sit in a meeting. The next time your partner is meeting with the financial advisor or with the accountant, you don't necessarily have to ask any questions. Just show up in the room. And then the next
Yep.
year, you might feel a bit more confident to ask a question or two. So this is a new hobby. This is a skill that is not taught in schools. We don't talk about it with our friends. And you can't get better at something unless you actually put a little work into it. So it's going to start slow. I relate this to running. During COVID, I attempted running. I suck at running. It's not for me.
Not for me either.
Right. Well, and there was a gazelle that jogged by me, and I'm like head down, and I like made it to the corner, and I was like, and I had the aha moment of like, this is how people feel about talking about money. It's hard. It's uncomfortable.
Yes.
My body could do it. It was mentally telling me I had to stop. And somebody just
Yeah.
So
rode by because they've been
some
doing it.
I'm, s- I'm sorry. Something Carrie and I have spoken about is not everybody enters into a partnership wondering how we're going to raise our kids. It's not typically a conversation. You watch your chosen partner around kids, you can get an idea, do they like them? Do they interact with them, or you have some inkling. It's not always discussed. Are we going to yell? Are we going to do timeouts? What are we going to be like as parents? So, do you find that with money as well, that people enter into a partnership and there's not a conversation? So, do you invest in stocks, or do you have a 401k? Like, do you find that people don't have those
Let's
conversations?
play a game. All right, Carrie, I'm going to go to you first. Are you
All right, let's go.
you have a partner?
I do.
Okay.
I am married almost 30
Okay, so
years. So,
we're gonna dust the cobwebs off here. How long did
okay.
it take to say I love you?
3
3
months.
months. Jessica, how about for
Yep.
you?
So, we started dating in December and April.
So 4 months. Okay.
Yep.
The average is 5. So you guys are in this. And now, Kara, go back to you. When did you find out
Yeah.
what his credit score was?
So, I'm in a very unique situation because my husband graduated with a degree in economics, and so he was in accounting and then finance. And so I knew early on, but only because my mom threw me under the bus. And when she first met my husband, she actually said to him, not right away in the first conversations, but soon after us dating and we would go over for a family meal, she actually said to him, you need to know what you're getting into. She is a spender. Right away, like he knew where I was coming from in terms of finances. I knew where he was so excited because he just saved up and paid cash for his first car. We were only 22 years old. So we were very, very different in that how we looked at money, but it was a conversation right away that we had. So I knew, but believe me, as time went on, yeah, I was the one hiding the bags coming into my house, but it I think we were unique just because of what his background was and because of my mom laying the framework for if you're going to marry her, right? Like this is what you need to know.
Yeah.
Carrie, I thought you were going to say your mom asked him his credit score.
No.
How about you, Jessica?
No,
When did you
no.
learn?
Oh wait, I'm gonna say though, my credit score is better than his right now.
Is that because you brought his down at some point, or
No, I just think that I always okay, and this is another thing. I don't want to take over this conversation, but my mom also pointed out to me it was really important for me to always have my own credit card with my own name on it because of how she was raised. And her first credit card was like Mrs. and then her husband's name. It wasn't even her name. So I think because I always have had my own credit and then it was ours together. I don't know. I don't really know why. I mean, we're not that far off,
But
but
it's
good
interesting.
for
It
you?
goes back to your background. So the background for your
Yes.
mom that came from her
yeah,
mom was like, you
yeah.
have your own credit, you establish it, even though you're a spender, the two of you have been able to talk about it. But it was important for you that passed down. Interesting. Jessica, how about you? How long until you learned about your partner's debt or credit score?
Okay, so I don't remember specifically when I learned of his credit score, but so if we started dating in December, in June, he was moving out of his shared apartment with his roommate and buying his own apartment in the city in Manhattan. So at some point, I'm sure it came up around that time, so around 6 months. I do, though, remember specifically having a conversation about my finances. Like he was, because we were raised in very different financial households, he was taught you max out your 401k, you start saving a portion of your salary as soon as you get your first paycheck. And I was taught, what can we buy? What can you buy with your paycheck now? And I came into our relationship with a significant amount of credit card debt. So that was we did have conversations about it.
That's good. I mean, and that's healthy that you're able to talk about it versus hiding it. And so the
Yes.
stat is you say I love you around the 5, 6 month mark, and then you don't disclose finances to around 9 months.
Huh.
Now I've talked to people.
Is there really a study done on that? Like where you, wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
And there's some people who be like, never, years. And so like the fact that you
Sure.
guys are ahead of the curve, there's a few of us, right, that get that information out right away. But most people don't have those conversations. So now you're head over heels in love with somebody. You're dreaming of the white picket fence. You're dreaming of the 2.5 kids, but you don't know who they are and what their habits are. And then those habits show up in everything. And so when I work with clients, and I work with clients as partners and also as individuals, so depending on where you are, is they get married. They're used to having their own money. They're used to spending on themselves. And now enter dun 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 children. And that changes the whole dynamic because now you're paying for preschool, nannies, diapers, babysitters. Well, guess what? That has to come from somewhere else.
Wait, I just want to stop you for a second. So, are you saying that you're seeing when people enter into a marriage or a joint partnership and are starting to have children, at this point, do you see most people still keep finances separate?
It's interesting. It actually depends on, from my observation, it depends on the ages. So there's three ways that I see people do their finances. One is the all in. You're mine, we just spend from one
Right.
account.
We share
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Then there's 50-50. So we split 50% of the rent, we spent or the mortgage, we 50% of the car, like all the bills go 50-50.
Okay.
Anything else, we each have separate accounts for, right? And so you each have a little pot also. Then the third is proportional. So say you have one person who's making $100,000 and you have one person who, I'm going to do simple math,
Sure.
$10,000, right? It's a little side business. Somebody pays 90% of the bills, somebody pays 10% of the bills. And they can do it that way. So those are the three things that I have seen where people divide up expenses. Now kids come into the
Okay.
picture. So if you were doing 50-50 before or 90-10, What happens when the kids come into the picture? I have
Hmm.
some clients that the primary spouse who's working and there's a stay-at-home spouse that says, I'm not going to pay for the housekeeper and I'm not going to pay for the, the nanny or the babysitter because that's your job. If you want that, it has to come from your money. Well, that's not what we talked about when we got married, right? We're splitting all
Right.
of our expenses. And so it comes down to values, financial
Hmm.
values. These are things that, again, we don't really talk about because it's not
Right.
expressed. So
Sure.
I value my sanity, therefore, I need a few hours off. How we do
Right.
that could be many different ways, but it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Your mom watches the kid every Thursday, or you take the kids on Saturday and I get to go to the gym or go out to brunch with my friends because I need that to fill myself. Might not be dollar amount anymore, but it's the values.
And I think it's also probably what people have seen with their parents, meaning, right? Like if my mom worked, that's what the husband or wife might assume the wife would do, or stay at home. Like there's expectations that maybe they're not communicating about what the family finances are going to look like when they have kids, because I'm guessing there are a lot of people that don't even talk about when they're ready to have kids the financial part. It's more the emotional part of whatever my age. Oh, I'm getting older, we need to have kids, if now, or I'm feeling like I'm ready, or all my friends are starting to have kids, whatever that is, right? I'm going to say that the financial part is probably low on the totem pole
It's not even
of
thought about, or if it is, it's not.
the reason, or right, are we gauging the readiness to have
So
children?
with that, we have 8 months, I'll say, because the first month we generally don't know we're pregnant. Is to start living the spending plan that you're going to have with a newborn. So put away money for the diaper. Start changing your habits earlier on so that way, A, you have an emergency fund built up, extra medical expenses that are going to come your way, or anything else. You have a little padding, but also you're not doing all the adjustments all at once. It's not like everything's been stripped from me. I no longer could go out with my friends. I can no longer buy a new blouse, right? But if you start doing those things earlier on while you're prepping, both of you, not just the woman, but the woman and the man, start prepping and preparing, it makes it easier. The other thing that I talk about with clients is I hate the word budget. It is like the word diet. Do you like the word diet?
No,
What happens when I say the word
no.
diet? What do you think of?
Just
What I can't
restrictions
eat, what
and
I
and
can't
what you
eat.
can't do.
Right.
Right.
The negative. Yeah.
Right. And somehow every time I go on a diet, I end up more like weighing more than before I started. And because I feel constrained. So the word budget gives me that same ick feeling because you're telling me I can't do something. So what I like to do is call, and I work with people on building a yes plan. What do you want to say yes to? Yes, I want to be a stay-at-home mom because, and then we get into the why. Why is that so important to both of you? And when you understand these things, when you start saying yes to certain things, it's easier to start saying no. And when you could vision it and put a picture up, draw a picture if you're handy or artsy. I'm not. So like I will go and like find a picture of what my next yes is and I'll frame it. And guess what? We're going to see it. We're going to talk about it. And it's going to be a reminder of what we're currently saying yes to. As your kids get older, your yes plan might change. It still could be yes to putting away for retirement. And yes, we're going to put away for college. But your current yes, your short term yes, and a long-term yes.
I love that.
I love
It's like
that
a
too.
vision
Mm,
board,
yes, for your
including the
finances.
financial piece into it. Yeah. So at
Very
what part, Jessica, were you going to have a question? If not, I have
No,
one.
it's okay. Go ahead. I can save mine.
Okay. At what point in the marriage, and now you've had a baby or you're beginning your family, do you start to have those conversations about putting away for college, right? And college planning and finances? I know that like what we did, and it happened really early, but again, I don't think we're part of the norm. Do you work with like, is that something that you help a couple and families with, or do you recommend they talk to more of a financial advisor on college and finance planning?
So yeah, so advisor is going to talk, your accountant, your advisor is going to talk about your dollars and cents. For me, I'm talking about all your other senses. Now you have two different people. You mentioned your husband's a planner. So for him, planning for college was natural. For many, it's not, and it's based on experiences. So if my experience is I put myself through college, I went to community college, I put myself through college, like it might be my kid's going to do the same thing. I'm not going to worry about it. Other people, it was my parents were able to put away for college. I came out without student loans. I want to do this for my child. So it's based on your experiences that what you value. Now, it could be I came out with student loans. I'll never do that to my kid again. So the first question is to your children or to your spark. The first question to your partner is, do you value us paying for college? If it's yes and yes, great. Let's start putting away $50 a month, especially if you start young and auto pay, right? It's a value to us. That's one dinner out. We'll have spaghetti on Tuesday night. And instead that $50 is going to go to college. Great. High five on Tuesdays, $50 for college. It could be as simple as that. Now, if you have one that says, yes, I'm willing to pay for college, and one was like, no, our kid's going to be fine, then you have to have some more dialogue. And we have to understand of why that you both want those things. Why is it important for you to pay for college? And why is it important for you to not? And then maybe come up with a middle ground where we'll provide the first 2 years. But it's a conversation and you have to start talking about it, and don't wait till the kid goes off to college. I just launched a program that I've done about 18 plus. Is the kids are going off to college and the parents never talk to them about what do we have saved, what are your expectations, like great, you're 18, bye. Or is it you're 18 and we're going to give you $300 a month for food, but you have to pay for your electricity and your housing? It's hard for kids because they've never had these financial conversations in their home until they're 18, a skill we don't talk about in school, and then we just throw them out in the wild. So putting levels of expectation with your kids early on, they're in middle school, they're in high school, they're in college, have those conversations to say, this is what we can do, and this is what we're willing to do, and this is where the gaps are. So that way they can also start level setting themselves.
Do you feel like the conversation with about money should start even before discussions about college, like allowances, or how do kids begin to understand what money actually is? I feel like in this day and age, so much of it is done either with a credit card or Apple Pay that kids aren't even seeing cash anymore. So how does a parent even begin to explain what finances look like?
So I said my dad and I had a close relationship. I remember going to the grocery store with him. He'd take out his cash, he'd jiggle the change, and like he'd have me count out, what the change was going to be or how much to give. We don't see that. And my youngest probably was 5 and again tapped the credit card and she looks at me, she goes, how much is on that thing? Like she just thought everything was free because you just tap a piece of plastic and you walk out with, shopping bags of groceries. It's a challenge.
I just have to interject for 1 second. One of my funniest stories is my youngest want to buy his girlfriend a Valentine's Day gift, and he didn't have any cash on him, and he took out his credit card that we pay the bill on. He's like, "Don't worry, mom, I've got this." But I was still paying for it.
And he
So
was so proud too, right?
yes, yes. I said, well, who do you think actually pays that bill?
Yes.
Where do you think that money comes from? So, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Go
No,
on.
but that is a good thing. And now I have a 16-year-old who does have a job, and I'm divorced, so she's very smart with her credit card because she has my credit card, her dad's credit card, and her own debit card. So she flips between the three depending on the situation, which is funny. She's like, I got my nails done. I'm like, who paid for it? She's like, I did. But then if she's out at Chipotle, it's like you bought it today or dad bought it, and so she's gotten smart. Um,
She has some smart money sense there.
right? It's all about who says yes to you and financial boundaries, right? If I say you have
Yeah.
$100 to spend and she has $100 to spend. But back to the smaller kids, because that's really what we're talking about here is how do you teach them the value of a dollar? I love this exercise. So baseball's coming up or travel baseball, especially when they get older, and cheerleading. You pick it, right? Family vacation, summer's coming up. You want to go on a trip. Like the school has like those thermometers that you have
Yes.
to like raise money. So for a
Yeah.
kid, I had a client that did this. They wanted to go to Ireland on a trip, and it was going to cost like $10,000 at the time. So what they did is they put a calendar, not a calendar, a thermometer up. And every time they saved money, AKA went to Target, put things back that they didn't need, that $50, they would go and move it. That's a important part, move it from the checking account over to a savings account that they created for the trip. And they would physically
Hmm.
move the $50. And the kids all of a sudden at the store, the grocery store, at Target were like, no, 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 we put that back. We want to go to Ireland. Right. And so they started coloring it in. The same thing going out to dinner and some small things. And they started to see the dollars move up and they got the trip. So that's a good way of teaching kids how to,
That's a great exercise. I love
Yeah.
that.
and it could be
Yeah,
a
I like
shape
that
of
a lot.
anything, right? It does, the thermometer is
Sure.
great, but I've had kids saving for a car that will color in the car, right? Oh, you bought the
Yep.
tires,
Oh, I just got a wheel. Yeah. I just paid for a wheel.
exactly. But then
That's
we're
so
back
great.
to
Yeah,
visuals.
we used to have the family, like that extra change vacation bucket, right? So we had learned like just put your extra change in the clear, big
The
container.
big water
And
Yep.
jugs that used to
yeah, the
be.
big one. Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't have that anymore. It's funny. I have a cute piggy bank
Right.
that's divided up between saving, investing, donating, and spending. But it's rare that I
But they
get
have
change
nothing
to
to,
put it in,
right.
right?
Hmm.
Because everything is so
Yeah.
digital in today's world. And
Right.
so that's one way of doing it. Another way I had family rule is we don't order in during the week. We don't get delivery during the week, that kind of like that kind of thing. Fast food sometimes during sports season. But my point is like we don't
Right.
delivery dude on a Tuesday. My
Right.
kid came to me and she's like, I want to try wings. And I'm like, well, sorry, we don't, there's food in the fridge.
Right.
And she was very
Right.
adamant. She was 13 at the time and she had some cash in her drawer. And so she came out and she goes, what if I bought the family dinner? Okay. I said, do you want to save for Monday when like it's wing night and we could get a deal? Nope. I want it today. I want it now. Like I'm going to pay for it. Great. I had her pay for dinner. The wings came and she was like, ooh, this is gross. Can I get a refund? And I said no, right? Because in the
Doesn't
real
work
world,
like
like
that.
you could have waited, right? You could for the weekend, you could have waited for a deal. You were impulsive and you didn't like it. That's part of life. So it's sometimes taking some small learning moments along the way to help them.
Yeah.
What about allowances? Do you believe in allowances? Did you do that with your kids? Is that something I feel like there's a great debate about why should parents pay their kids for doing a chore in the house that every family member is responsible for.
Yeah, so I probably need you for parenting coaching because I'm the most inconsistent. My kids will tell you we've tried everything under the sun. I've tried allowance, I've tried we're not going to do this until that happens. I've tried you live in this house, this is the responsibility. I, I'm inconsistent and they know it, so they have my ticket on that. But one of the questions that I have for you and your partner to talk about is, did you get allowance as a kid? How did you earn it? And what did you do with it? So, Carrie, I'd be interested because your mom ratted you out real quick about being a spender,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Did you earn allowance as a kid and did you spend it right away?
No, I did not earn an allowance as a kid. As soon as I was 15, I think was the earliest that we were allowed. I grew up in Chicago, so state of Illinois. I think I could work at 15. I was told you're going to get a job, right? You're going to get a job. You can choose whatever your job is, and we're happy to drive you to that job. For the first year, I didn't have my driver's license, but I had to get a job, and then that money went into my savings account, and they did, both my parents sat with me and explained like what their suggestion would be on how much I spent versus how much I saved. But I did not grow up with allowance. I had chores to do in my house, and that was my responsibility. I did not
And
get
now raising your
paid for them.
children, did you
Yes.
implement allowance?
No,
Yeah.
no, I did not. I did not. Same thing. I think it was the same. My kids, when they I think that I waited till they were 16 until they could drive. But once they were driving, then they got a job. And same thing, they had to pay for, I think it was, I did exactly what my parents did when I got a car was, you paid for your gas and we'll pay for your car insurance. So I did exactly the same thing that my parents did.
Right, based on your
And
experience, and you're like, "It worked
yeah,
for me, let me pass it down."
yep. So
Hmm,
that's what we did.
yeah. Jessica, how about you? Do your kids get allowance?
So, I feel like maybe at one time we tried it, but like you, it was not something we stuck to. And I think it's because I went back and forth with what are they actually getting money for? Like for making their bed? That's something that should just be a responsibility, not necessarily get paid for it. I also did not grow up receiving an allowance. Um, but we did, as like Carrie said, as they got older and started needing more money for going out, for gas money, for buying their girlfriends Valentine's Day gifts, we started talking about other ways to contribute and how what they would use their actual money for. Money they got, that they've saved from birthday presents, from, Papa coming over and slipping them $20. When would they use that money and when would we step in and help them?
It's interesting when we talk about this. I was a saver as a kid. So I could, and I've done some work. I do an exercise called Unlocking Your Financial Mindset. And in this, you go through past core money memories. And while you do this, you're able to find some memories that were locked. So for me, I was actually the saver in the family. So it's not a surprise that like I ended up where I am today, and I had a turquoise piggy bank, and like with a little code on it, and like anytime my mom needed cash and she didn't have cash, like she'd come to me and be like, "Erica, go get out of your little piggy bank," right? That was just the role that I had in the family, was that
Right.
little turquoise piggy bank, as the saver and as the banker in the family. And so,
Did you hold your parents accountable and make sure you got paid back?
absolutely, are you kidding? And so do my kids to this day. It's really funny. If I have to borrow some cash from them or something, they'll be like, bring that back.
Do they charge you interest?
They don't, but my daughter charges me to use her hair straightener. She got a Dyson like hair straightener that was expensive. So it's
Okay.
$10 every time I want to use it. And
What a
Wow.
smart girl.
I have now come back with, it's $5 every time you leave a wrapper around my house.
Oh.
Or an empty water bottle or
Uh,
yeah.
Yes, yes. So here's an interesting one. I'm going to pull up a card from the Let's Talk Finances couples card. And this is going to be interesting for us as adults now, but also as we're raising kids. Is, did you know how much your parents earned when you were a child? How does that impact your view of money today?
it's so funny because one of my questions that I had for you is what do you say to your kids when they ask them what is your salary? How much money do you make? Or how much did our house cost? Um because you look at your kids from preschool and they think those things cost like $3, and if you ask how much money you make, maybe they'll say $5.
They also
It's
think
such an
you weigh
it's
25.
such an abstract
Yeah, right.
concept to them. So, did I know I I honestly I don't remember. I remember when I was a teenager, let's say around 15, 16 years old, that's probably when I started. We were moving. We had always been renters. And at that age, about 15, 16 years old, my parents were buying their first house. So that was probably when I started to be aware of what the salary, what my father's earnings were, and what interest rates meant, and a mortgage, like what that stuff kind of meant.
Yeah, good life learning.
Yeah, for sure.
What about your
Carrie,
kids?
did you know? I'm sorry, my
Yeah,
kids. What about my?
yeah. And so with
Um,
that, now your
you know,
kids are
it's in.
teenagers.
I don't remember when, but I remember because we had to move also. So Avery, my oldest, she was going into second grade. We were moving in. We were moving from New York to Florida, and I do remember her asking how much our house cost. And I remember specifically my husband not answering her directly. And we tried to stay on the same page as often as we could, and it was not a discussion in front of her, but I remember asking, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about her knowing how much the house costs? Like what's wrong with that? And he's like, I don't know, it's just not something we discussed, when I was a kid. We didn't discuss how much money we made or how much, but yet he was told to save money. So it's the dynamic that it's very interesting. So much of it is what you bring to the table, like you've said, from your own experiences. But I think as the kids got older and realized as so much of technology plays a part in their knowledge, because they were able to go on realtor.com or whatever website there was to see how much a house actually costs. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but that was our experience with that particular topic.
Yeah, and I did not know how much my parents made. I knew my mom was a teacher, my dad was in sales. I knew that we had moved several times, and every time we moved, it was because he got a promotion or his territory got larger. So, there was a progression of where we lived. So I knew like he was doing better than he was doing before by the promotion and the size of his territory. But, typical, my mom was a teacher and, complained about her salary. I never asked her what she made, but I knew that in comparing their salaries that, she was not making anywhere near what he was making. But my parents were pretty strict with money and most things. Like my parents were very strict in our household, and there was a very huge level of responsibility that they were trying to teach us. Like I felt like all of my life lessons were about being responsible.
And then
Mm.
how does that play out for you raising your kids?
I think I went a little softer.
Yeah.
I the I understood what they were doing, but there were some things that I did not think were fair. Well, I don't want to, fair is not really the right word, but I
It
feel like
just
I
didn't fit
did
your values at the
miss
time raising
out.
your kids.
Yeah, miss out on some things. Like religious school was very important to my mom, and I played soccer and I was a cheerleader, and like I couldn't always join the teams at school because I had to be at religious school twice a week. And so practice was every day. And so and when I got to the point where I could make my own choices as a kid about continuing or not continuing, I was like, nope, no more religious school for me because I want to play these sports. So that I did differently with my children. I religious school is important, but they were able to miss religious school if there was something really important going on with their hobby or their sport or whatever, or performance for whatever they
And
wanted.
you just
So I tried to find a
and
balance.
you just said it nicely too. And I'll bring this up another level is we only know what we know. Because we don't share finances with our friends, with even our cousins, our family members. You only know what's happening inside your house. And then you get married, and their household was very different. Even your siblings, you'll notice, have different things, but based on their own experiences, even though the background in theory was the same. And so with money, if you don't start talking and understanding one another, you can't decide where you want to get to. It's like a hobby. Again, I use this like running, right? You have a baseline, and this is where you come out in the world. But unless you work on it, you're never going to improve it. And you're going to do the same cycle over and over again from what you know or what you feel. I felt my parents were too strict, so I'm going to go this way. Let's do some education on this. Ask some people. Ask, do research. You said social media. There's a lot of great outlets for that now too, where people are talking more about money. I have a board of directors that I say, where there's different people that I go to for different questions. If they're an expert in law, if they're an expert in finance, if they're an expert in decorating or organizing, those are the people I'm going to call up and say, hey, you're my board of directors, or even my kids, right? Like, am I making the right parenting decision? Does this sound right? Because if you do it in isolation, you're just going to keep doing the same things.
So, Erica, is that something you discuss openly with your girls? Your salary, what things cost in the house, your mortgage? Is that something you discuss openly and freely with them?
We do obviously to an extent, right? It depends on their ages, but we do talk about it, and I open up small trading accounts for them. So like the other day was bring your kid to work day. I was adamant that they were going to school, and of course they stayed home. And work from home, they're here all the time. Like I said, they can tell you what I do. And my youngest came in, and she just had her bat mitzvah, so she had some money, and I invested it for her. She sat with me. We went through stock portfolio, what she was invested in. How do you look for a stock?
Mm,
What is a PE ratio? It just things.
such a great lesson.
Right. And I said, look, we have a little extra cash. What company do you want? Go research something. She hasn't come back with one, but she has the
Okay.
opportunity to say, hey, I want to go to invest in Target. Where are you spending your money that you could be proud of?
Right.
So start with small conversations. It doesn't have to necessarily be investing, but it could be like, hey, that $50 is going to your college.
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head with so much of this is all about conversation and communication, keeping an open line between with your kids. I mean, it goes across the board without saying keeping open lines of communication, but we need to add the topic of finance and money to our list of important topics with our kids. Erica, this conversation has been so important and actually so much fun too.
Yeah.
If people want to find you, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is yourfinancialtherapist.com.
Okay, we'll put a link for our listeners.
Great. And then on Amazon, exclusively on Amazon, is Let's Talk Finances, which is the conversation cards for couples. So you can use this for
Awesome.
couples to get the conversation going, or with your kids. Ask them in front of them, get the conversation going. Just start talking about it.
Maybe you need to make another box just for kids.
That's in the works. The divorce edition is coming out in
Oh,
September. So that will be available in September, and then next year will be the 18 plus and aging parents. So this,
oh my gosh, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
Erica,
we will have you on for part 2, which we look forward to. Thank you so much for your time today, and this was just so enlightening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Erica.
good